All right, it's Wednesday, and we're going to try something a little bit different. This is a Patreon recommendation from Wayne Whitney. Wayne, thank you first for joining up on our Patreon and for recommending a movie that I've been wanting to talk about for quite a while, and I know I've referenced it before in other things, and that is the story of Riki-Oh. One of the very few anime or mangas that I'm already off to a great start here. Sorry, your Patreon money is going to waste. One of the very few mangas that I've actually been enticed to read on my own. I don't mean on my own, I don't have someone reading it to me and doing all the voices. I was so taken aback by the movie that I sought out the book to see if it was as insane, and it is. But it struck me. It sort of reminded me a little bit of the same thing when I sought out Old Boy. You have the similarities in those two things as the story that we have in the book and the story that we have in the film are extremely different, and they also both switched their locations. Riki-Oh was a Japanese story that became a Chinese story, and say the Old Boy became a Japanese story. The Old Boy book and the Riki-Oh book are though extremely different, and the movies are extremely different because one Old Boy is about almost like the Count of Monte Cristo, like what does revenge do to a man, whereas Riki-Oh is also a revenge story about this man who perfects his body and his mind, where the Old Boy movie tells it in this very brutal but grounded way, where there's character development and big twists, as you know, the twist of that movie. But it also had way more money than Riki-Oh had. Riki-Oh, the movie takes just one chunk, the prison story, and it kind of truncates that into what we have. And it's a low budget thing. If you've never seen this movie before, you might have seen the famous The Daily Show moment of Zen where the dude smashes the guy's head together and his head explodes. That's what this movie is known for. It's known for utterly insane gore, Evil Dead, Dead Alive, trauma levels of gore, and it's glorious. You're not going to a movie like this where there is a theme to this movie. I can't put enough sarcastic quotes around that. Because like the comic or the manga, I'm sorry, that was culturally offensive of me. The manga is about global warming and there's things about the prison system and all that. The movie, they're like, hey, prisoners are people too, and some of us aren't bad, and we just want to go see our families, and please stop torturing and killing us. And then you have the authority and the bad prisoners, and they're like, but we really like torturing and killing, so you understand the predicament that we're in. The warden, his son reminds me of Jack Black in Tropic Thunder when he was one of the fatties. Or when Chris Farley would be like a little kid on SNL in the 90s. It's a Hong Kong action movie that looks like an 80s Hong Kong action movie, but it was made in the 90s. The dubbing is not great, but also the acting is super stilted as well. You can tell with the scenes with Ricky and his white sweater vest when he's with his uncle and he's training and all that kind of stuff. That you're like, okay, they picked this dude because of his physique, and that works because fucker is a swole Asian man, He's training in the cemetery. It's a peaceful place that he loves, and he's glowing, and then he's just fucking punching tombstones and breaking tombstones over his back and stuff like that, like people would with old light bulb, neon light, fluorescent light tubes at a backyard wrestling event. There's a whole, in the movie they kind of gloss over the plot that Ricky's sister was raped and murdered. It's not really important. It's in there when they're flying their remote control airplane, again with his kicky sweater vest on. But the movie really it doesn't matter. this movie is almost like the the Asian fight film version of the Paranormal Activity movies, where you're watching those movies passively until things get quiet, and then you know something's going to happen. When this movie is not having its conversation scenes, you're just waiting for the fight scenes. And when the fight scenes usually are dudes in the shower, a lot of naked men fighting each other. Uh, and then you have like I said, trauma levels or fucking Hellraiser levels of gore. Guys getting the bottoms of their faces ripped off. People having the tops of their heads punched off completely, like they're in Peter Jackson's Bad Taste when the top of his head is gone. You have guys being punched through the bottom of their jaw and ripping their jaw off. You have guys being punched through the stomach. You have nails through the hand. You you have a guy who uses his own intestines as a weapon. But it goes from like sadistic, like black comedy gore to other times where it's actually kind of makes you wince. Like when Ricky has to tie his own tendons back up, you're like, Um, yeah, this movie's crazy. You have you have the androgynous. I thought it was a woman, but it wasn't. Inmate that works for like the warden with his hook and all that kind of shit. But yeah, it's just it's fucking wild. It's just like low budget, incredible gore. The filmmakers forget that the body can't do that. Like Ricky has all of his tendons ripped like severed, so he can't walk. But in the very next shot, he's just up and walking. It's like be like in Spider-Man. There's the famous scene where like he thwips the lamp and breaks it. Then when Aunt May opens the door, the lamp is back there again. Or the magic drawer in American Pie, where the lube is in there, but when they close it and they open it back up again, the lube's gone. You have shit like that in this movie. And then Ricky's just out there, and his code is very simple. It's like, I don't like bad guys, and I don't suffer fools. Even when I'm getting crucified, it's all about getting out of this prison, which means punching through a fucking brick prison wall like you're the goddamn Kool-Aid man, No, it's fun, dude. It's a fun, fucking wild Japanese, or not even no, it's not even Japanese. It's Chinese. Sorry, once again, so culturally inappropriate. The manga was Japanese. Action movie that just has like gore that I haven't seen in this kind of movie. You have like you have one of the guys is clearly what they based M. Bison on in the Street Fighter series. And I got to imagine the kills as well were like an inspiration for the Mortal Kombat series, which even the Mortal Kombat series now is doing, like where you see the inside of the body with the impact. That was from the Sonny Chiba movies. I believe it was The Bodyguard did that for the first time, where they showed like the hit and then you show the X-ray of the skull and stuff like that. Like I'd seen, I think this might have been one of the first movies of its kind though that I did see, because obviously you grow up with kaiju films, you grow up with samurai films, ninja films, whatever. I got a little bit more into the crime films as I got a little bit older, but this was one that I was like, oh wow, this is a Eastern movie that has very Western taste. Again, growing up with trauma, growing up with Peter Jackson movies and with Sam Raimi movies and all that stuff. You know what? That makes sense though, because then all the boring parts are like in a slasher movie where you're just waiting for Jason to show up. You're like, okay, all of these inmates are essentially like the teenagers at Camp Crystal Lake. It's just like, where? Oh, okay, where is he? Oh, he's here. All right, good. Now he's gonna fucking punch the top of a dude's head off, or when he punches the guy and the dude fist hits him and he just punches through his fist and it just explodes. It's amazing. The whole fucking thing, the gore is incredible, and the low budget angle of it is what makes it so fun, because it's splatter core, it's splatter foo, splat foo. and it definitely was one of the first movies of its kind that I had seen, and it did lead me back down a rabbit hole into discovering the Sunny Chibas and stuff like that. So in that regard, and it made me want to go and look up the manga, which I never did. It was just never my bag. There's very few even animes that I've gone and sought out on my own, like Akira, Spriggan, Princess Mononoke, stuff like that I've gone and I've seen on my own, because it's just not my thing. I grew up with like anime that we didn't know was anime when we were kids, like 60s, 70s, 80s, like cartoons. You have like Robotech and Speed Racer and shit like that. That like I knew it was different. I knew it didn't feel like an American cartoon, but I didn't know. I didn't know that like most cartoons were like outsourced to Korea anyway. Except like the Clerks cartoon did it, where they're like the animation was lost on the way back, so it was finished by the Korean animators, and you have the, who is driving? Oh my God, Bear is driving. How can that be? Uh, but it was one of those things where like a lot of when you see these movies or you see these like anime and stuff, and you start to go, oh okay, and then the pieces start to come together on where a lot of this stuff comes from. I never got any further into it because of the years of doing Underbelly, back the old YouTube show. We would go speak at anime conventions, and anime fans made me not want to like anime. But like I said, I've seen some cool shit. Vampire Hunter D is super fucking cool, But I don't know what else is there to say about the story of Riki-Oh. I'm I think there is an anime of it too that's like an hour and some long. Somebody was telling me to check it out. But Wayne, thank you for bringing this one up because it gave me an excuse to go back and watch this movie. And I've shown this one to people quite a few times over the years, and everybody always knows the same thing. They know the head smash from the Daily Show. I think it was the Craig Kilborn one was where that was from. Um, but yeah, it's definitely a party movie. It's definitely one you put on and the kid like it's mistakes and it's inconsistencies in character and development and all that kind of stuff. I think is perfect for a more pedantic YouTuber. Not really my bag. I look at it more as like okay, this awesome part's coming up, and then you watch it like a mixtape almost. Again, but like forget the story and the acting and all that kind of stuff. It's just a fun fucking low budget take on a piece of a manga with amazing gore that like I think people know it because of that. It's definitely climbed its way up into the parlance of cult movies that are not as well known. This isn't Evil Dead, but I would, if people, a lot of people still don't even know that Peter Jackson, before he did the Rings movies, did like splat stick movies. So I could put this on the same level as like a Dead Alive or something like that, because I think when people see Brain Dead or see even stuff like Heavenly Creatures or something that he made, they're like, that's the Lord of the Rings guy. I'm like, yeah, right. But this one is definitely a comic book inspired piece of cult film insanity, and I think I caught it at the perfect age at like 13, 14, 15 years old when I first saw it on a bootleg VHS tape. And it's not a hard movie to find. You can get this anywhere. Like it's probably streaming on Tubi right now or something like that. I have the DVD still, but I had a bootleg tape of it that a friend's brother made that had it had this on it. It had Inframan. Another one that he gave me had like Sister Street Fighter, Crippled Masters, which is another great one. I remember he gave me a tape that was Mad Ron's Previews from Hell, which I did a review of before because it's made like that movie was made in 1987, like literally 30 minutes from where I'm sitting right now at the Lansdowne Theater. So that's where I saw a lot of these. I had a friend whose brother was a movie theater employee when I was middle school and he was in college, and we just got these VHS tapes of just like all this fucking crazy stuff. And that's kind of what opened the doors to me to Korean cinema, Chinese cinema, Japanese cinema outside of Godzilla. You know what I mean? And that was important to kind of broaden my horizons a little bit beyond that. I don't know. What are some other movies that are like this? Uh, I think we've gone into the Takashi Miike's films where the level of gore has become more extreme. We did what did we do? We did Metz and I did one of them not too long ago, and it had that same kind of level of sadistic, but joyfully sadistic gore. And obviously Miike's films. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Miike's films are a bit more well put together. I think there's more of a filmmaking artistry there than something like Riki-Oh, which feels far more pulp, far more blunt, because the guy's body is a fucking blunt object. He's crafted himself into like a superhero almost. Where his powers come from doesn't matter. He's meditating in a cemetery. Relax. Is he there for revenge for his sister? Who are the guys who killed us and raped his sister? Did he get revenge on them? We don't know. What was going on at the prison with Hook Hand Warden before all this? Who cares? It doesn't matter. What we care about now is they paralyzed Ricky, they crucified Ricky, and he just keeps fucking coming back and killing naked dudes in the shower and squeezing heads till eyeballs pop out and a lot of eyeball damage in this one. So I'm a big fan of it in that regard. But yeah, this was just a fun one to revisit and to get to talk about, because there's not enough old school practical gore that brings me back to that feeling as a kid. You see the Toxic Avenger, you see Evil Dead 2, something like that, or even like Tom Savini stuff. Like, I got really, really interested in special effects because I can't do them, but I know people who can. But I always wanted to see how the trick was done, like a magic trick. And I read Tom Savini's book, and I read Dick Smith's book when I was in middle school and high school. And something like this, it's like you could see the rough edges of it, but because the trick comes off so well and the gore is so much fun or makes you wince or whatever, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that it's clearly a rubber head, so like there's something really, really fun about that, and something I really miss about that level of filmmaking. You're see it a little bit in indie film, but mostly everything is CGI, and for the most part, with the exception of a few filmmakers, people don't want to go 80s gory anymore, or Hong Kong cinema gory anymore, because they think it turns off the wider audience, which sucks, because there is something fun. Even like we went and saw Thanksgiving, and that one's gore, I was like, that's great. This feels like a fucking throwback to 80s, or even like 90s, Dr. Giggles type of things, before everything became so self-aware scream-wise, or it tried to use the ugliness of the gore as a stark reminder of the reality of violence and all that kind of shit. And it's like, no, sometimes, dude, I just want to fucking watch a guy in a movie get his jaw punched off. Like, what's wrong with that? I'm going to talk to my therapist about that, because I'm sure there's a lot wrong with that. But that's it for this Wednesday. Thank you, Wayne. Again, I keep saying that because I don't want, if somebody signs up for our Patreon, I don't want them to feel like, all right, you're talking about my movie, but what about me? Thank you. Thank you for making me, reminding me that I need to talk about this movie, because it is a fucking lot of fun. And again, it's opened up the door now where I'm going through Tubi and I'm going through Amazon Prime and stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay, I haven't watched Versus in a long time, or Battle Royale in a long time, or The Bodyguard, Sonny Chiba's The Bodyguard, or Seven Golden Vampires, the Hammer Shaw Brothers movie, and stuff like that. There's just a lot of those type of films that I haven't revisited in a really long time. And also, it's going to just bring me back to, because of Godzilla -1, like, going back and watching a lot of kaiju films, lesser known kaiju films. You know, maybe I'll watch a Gamera movie. I don't know. What's Kenny up to these days? Actually, I think that other what's it, Brandon Tenold, the other YouTube guy. He does. I think he did all the Gamera movies. Never a huge fan of those. I did like when they brought them back in the '90s and they went with more like of a realistic vibe. Or like a darker vibe to Gamera. I thought those were really cool and really well done. Obviously, you know, the famous Mystery Science Theater Gamera, like Jim Cotta-ing on the bar is one of the funniest things ever. I'd put that above the Godzilla dance or the Godzilla flying drop kick in Godzilla versus Megalon. But you know, that's just me. Maybe I'll go watch Pulgasari or something. Caleb's always talking about that one in our Discord. But yeah, so sign up for our Discord, Schlock and All Films. Sign up for our Patreon. I've been putting a bunch of stuff up there. And if you have a movie that you recommend me check out, I will watch it and I will mention your name a bunch of times. You know, and this one was a lot of fun though. I genuinely, even though I've seen this one so many times, and I watched it on the big screen, I remembered to bring my DVD in so I could shoot this, and nobody came to the second show of Mean Girls. I was like, fuck it, I'm here. I got paperwork to do. I'll just bring my laptop into the theater and watch Riki-Oh on the big screen while I do this. And it's a it's a fucking trip to watch it on the big screen in the darkened theater. I wish that I had other people here to watch it with me. Like I said, it's a party movie. You know, this is definitely the kind of one that works better when you and your friends get some beer and some junk food and watch something like this. But you know, the only people who will come hang out with me are Mets and Lana occasionally, but Lana's eye had to have surgery, so that's why she hasn't been. Dave haven't been on for a while, but we plan on doing something soon. Will you guys be my friends? I need friends. All right, that's it. Riki-Oh, the story of Riki, based on a manga that I actually read, and I really dug it, and I recommend that if you do like the movie, you check out the manga too, because they are like vastly different versions of the story. Again, same thing with Old Boy. But yeah, that's it. Thank you, Wayne. Sign up for our Patreon, sign up for our Discord, and I will catch you guys next week. I was gonna try. I don't know. I was like thinking of like what's a kill that I didn't mention that I could go out on. Then I was like, I don't even remember what I've said. I'm just rambling at this point. So that's it. I'll see you guys next week.